Take two. So much better.
All right, welcome back to the Arts District Podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Georgia, and this is episode 12.
Episode 12, that's crazy. 8 more to go until we're at 20.
Mm-hmm. It seems silly to be like, yeah, 20, but we just did 10
I know.
weeks ago.
And it was an exciting little point in my life, so.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
I
been a
was
while
just
since I've
talking to
stuck
you.
with something for that long.
Yeah. I was just talking to you about editing in that cupcake.
Yeah.
Now that I've drawn the cupcake, I can just add more candles to it and edit it in for everyone.
Just so you know, it took Georgia like an hour to put that cupcake in her hand.
Yeah. Because I, drew it in Illustrator and...
That was our digital art piece of episode 10.
So unnecessary. But I hope you enjoyed it, because I did it for you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get going. I only have a little bit to talk about today.
Okay.
But it will be good. Interesting article I read this morning on Forbes about the Recording Industry Association of America, also known as the RIAA, but I'm just going to call it RIA because I don't like spelling out acronyms.
Yeah.
So RIA, I'm going to talk about that and music in 2014 and why it's not doing so well.
Okay. And I'm going to talk about a couple exhibitions that I saw at 401 Richmond.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is that it?
So, yeah.
Okay, so it
Should
might be a little shorter, short episode, but whatever.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, let's just quickly talk about your Bufferfest.
Yes. Sorry.
This doesn't really have anything to do with art, but I guess it kind of does because it's a YouTube festival.
Well, yeah, it's a cultural event, and that's what we do, right? Music, arts, and culture.
Right.
So yeah, I was just at Buffer Festival this past weekend, which is a YouTube film festival organized by Apprentice A, which is a film production company group of people. And it was really good. This was the second year, and they're going to continue to do it annually, and it's just going to keep growing. So this year it was 3 days of films, or film screenings, as well as an industry day before that. So next year I'll be hitting industry day for sure, because we're in the YouTube industry.
We totally are.
Yeah.
Maybe by next year we'll be recognizable.
Yeah, because we'll have 52 weeks under our belt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good. I got to see premieres of a bunch of short films by YouTube directors, writers, actors, vloggers. Yeah, it was awesome. I had a total blast.
Did you meet any other YouTubers?
I didn't want to be creepy and just walk up to people and say hi and stuff.
Did you recognize
Also,
anyone?
Yeah, I recognize lots of people. And in the area, because it's held at the TIFF Bell Lightbox and the Scotiabank Theatre, and then the Toronto Metro Convention Centre is where all the meetups were. They're all so close that you would, and all of the people who were in all of the YouTube people, creators and stuff.
What are they called? Panelists?
Yes, panelists. Brilliant.
Yeah.
They were staying at the Hyatt, which is right there too. So if you're just wandering in the area, you would see all of these people.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that for Canadian Music Week when they do the panels and everyone stays. It used to be at the Royal York. Now I'm not sure where they do it, but same kind of idea. If you walk around the hotel in the lobby, you'd see everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's weird.
So do they have anything like that elsewhere, or is it? Is this the one of its kind?
This is, there are other YouTube conventions and sort of conferencey things. There's Summer in the City, which is in London, in England, and there's VidCon, which is in Anaheim, and I'm sure there are other places, but this is different in that it's more a film festival style. So they're showing all these short films and YouTube videos, and there's less sort of panel discussion. There would be Q&A after, but it was definitely focused on look at this stuff that people make for YouTube. Okay, now look at the quality on big screen. We were in the largest cinema in the TIFF Bell Lightbox, and it was so cool to see
Imagine if they played our podcast on that big screen. Do they have any podcasters there?
I don't know if there were podcasters, but vloggers
Okay.
and stuff like
Same
that.
kind of
So
thing.
similar to us, where it's people talking at a camera, and you're not used to seeing those people. Like normally it's like this big,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that person is like 20 feet high. From here to here is 20 feet tall. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
neat.
It was really neat.
I'll have to check it out next year.
Yes.
I really wanted to do it this year, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah. Next year I think it's going to be 4 days plus Industry Day, so it's just growing, and improving.
Nice.
So that leads me into my next thing, is that while I was in the area, I stopped in at 401 Richmond, which is, the building is literally 401 Richmond Street West. And it is a restored heritage building. It was restored in 1994, and it's in downtown Toronto, and it houses over 140 artists, cultural producers, enterprises, galleries, festivals, and shops. It's an amazing space.
Kind of sounds like the distillery district.
Yeah, it is kind of, but like all in one building, and this old factory building has amazing wood floors and exposed brick walls.
I'd love to
and
live there.
giant windows, and there's a central courtyard that like lots of the studios look out onto.
Nice.
With all these plants, there's like a bridge between the two sides of it. That's all windows and like full of plants and stuff. I have a few photos, but I didn't like take any footage there, unfortunately. So I've known about 401 Richmond for a few years now. I visited there with my family. I don't know how we found out about it, but we just like to wander there every like couple years. And then once I was in university, my photography classes would take a field trip every semester to Toronto and go to a few galleries. One of those galleries we went to for photography was Gallery 44. I think that's the right name of it. All of a sudden I'm capping. Gallery 44.
It's not right. We'll just insert it here.
Okay. Which is a photography gallery and has dark rooms in the basement. You can become a member and use dark rooms and stuff.
Nice.
I also wanted to mention that we were talking about SOCAN, and I happened to mention CARFAC. How about some acronyms for you? SOCAN is the
Society of Composers, Authors, and Music Publishers of Canada.
Cool. And that prompted me to remember CARFAC, which is the Canadian Artist Representation / le Front des Artistes Canadiens. French.
Nice pronunciation, Georgia.
Not quite, but I try. Anyway, CARFAC operates out of 401 Richmond.
So wait, what's CARFAC do then? Like, cause how do you get royalties off of paintings? Like, what do they collect?
At large galleries, artists are paid for their work being shown.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be an established rate for your work being on display 9 to 5 between this date and this date.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool. They
You
actually
remember?
just won a huge case. Know what I really should be.
You should be.
Now that I am an exhibiting artist.
Yeah.
Self-promo, my exhibition at the Israeli Museum of Art and History is still open on until December 6th.
Nice plug.
Yeah. So, moving on, I will talk about the first exhibition that I saw at 401 Richmond. It was in Redhead Gallery, and it was Teri Donovan's Circa exhibition. It's on October 8th to November 1st, so you've only got like a week and a bit to get in there and see that. So this was an interesting exhibition. It takes a look at our current use of technology, but looks at it as though it's the future and the gallery is a museum looking back at now. Does that make sense?
Explain that again.
So the artist had created these artifacts, which were portions of wall paintings that would have been painted between 2008 and 2013. And then in the gallery is like a museum looking at these things as artifacts from the future.
Oh, okay.
So it's like you walk in the gallery and it's like 2065. And they're looking at these wall paintings and sort of wallpaper things from 2008 to 2013 or 2014. So, and they're supposed to be like found in a building that's being demolished in downtown Toronto. And these wall paintings sort of depict like laptops and headphones and flip phones alongside the famously extinct dodo bird. So it's kind of looking critically at our use of technology today and where it's leading and the fleetingness of the technology that we're using as it's rapidly changing and the internet age. There were some patterns repeating the logos for like Google Maps and iTunes and Twitter and stuff like that. So overall, I think it's an interesting concept, but it felt a little bit campy with the traveling in time aspect. Not that you're necessarily traveling, it's just this is how you're expected to experience the exhibition, like through the mindset of looking back on now. And it does make you think about how we're using internet and technology and stuff.
Yeah.
But it felt a little bit campy. Though the like actual execution of making these things look old and look like sort of fresco-esque, if I can say fresco-esque. That sounds ridiculous. But they did look like old things that just had these new elements in them.
Sounds interesting.
So yeah, it was interesting. If you can, go to Redhead Gallery in 401 Richmond and check out Teri Donovan's Circa exhibit.
Would he have any like pictures online?
Yes, I did go to her website and found this project and another project, I think it was called Squares or Boxes, that looked really interesting. So yeah, interesting show. Not necessarily working for me, but I think it's worth checking out. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll go into this right now. I mentioned before the Recording Industry Association of America, which I'm going to call RIA. There was this article I was reading this morning on Forbes. I should have wrote down the title of the article. I'm so silly sometimes. I don't know why I didn't do that. Basically saying like... now I'm gapping because I didn't write it down.
Here, you emailed it to me. I'll open it. Keep talking. Keep talking.
2014 and how it's the first year since RIA started that an album from an artist or a band hasn't gone platinum. That's what it was about. So that's pretty crazy. So RIA has been around for 62 years now. It was formed in 1952. And for those of you that aren't familiar with RIA, that is when an album becomes gold or platinum, multi-platinum or diamond, all that is coming from RIA, like all that information, and it's being certified gold, platinum, etc. by RIA. So that's all through sales. For a gold album, or for an album to become gold, takes 500,000 sales. For platinum, it's 1 million sales. Multi-platinum is like 2 million. Diamond is 10 million.
Wow.
So 2014, we haven't had a single album yet from an artist or a band to hit 1 million sales yet, which is absolutely crazy because like 1 million is not a lot when you think of like, well, that I think this is just in the U.S. Like their numbers are from the States, but still, like, there's a lot of people living in the States, you know.
Yeah. I was gonna say in global culture, it's definitely not a lot, but if it is just the States, then that changes things. But what are like the stats for previous years? Like, how many were there in 2013?
So last year there was 5 albums that hit platinum. I think I want to say there was Justin Timberlake, but now that I'm thinking of which Justin Timberlake album came out last year. I should have wrote them down, but I mean, there's still a couple more months left in the year.
Right, maybe some are close.
But, well, the closest... Okay, so there was an album that hit platinum at 3.2 million sales. It was the soundtrack for Frozen, but because it's a soundtrack, it's kind of in a different category. But still, one album to go above that, like, and it's a soundtrack for a kid's, like, Disney movie. It's pretty crazy. In second place, there was Beyonce, and in third, there was Lord's Pure Heroin. Both are coming in around 750,000. And the thing is, they came out last year. They weren't even 2014 releases, so it can't really be counted. So they're close. I mean, sort of close. They still have a little bit of product to move, but with only a couple more weeks left in the year to get that done. There's a couple things that might save that, but probably not. There's a new Taylor Swift record coming out October 27th, and the new Foo Fighter record coming out in November, Sonic Highways. But I mean, Taylor Swift has sold over 1 million in 1 week. In 2012, she did that. But
was that her last album, or did she put one out last year too?
I don't know. When did Red come out? I think Red came out last year.
Okay.
But maybe that was the 2012 one, so that was a huge album. But I don't really, I'm not really into Taylor Swift, so I don't really know the details on that. But who knows, she might be the saving grace for this year and sell a platinum record. But I don't know. It's coming out October 27th, so she really only has November and December to sell 1 million records. It's funny because it's just albums that haven't gone platinum. There's been 60 singles that have gone platinum. If you go on Ria's Twitter at RIAA, they will constantly put like what singles have gone platinum. On today, I saw that it was an Iggy Azalea song went platinum. So if you're into looking at that stuff,
I wonder
you can
if
check it
that has to do with, like, it's almost as though we've switched back to selling singles, right, with iTunes and stuff.
It's totally that. Like, that's what they're blaming. They're blaming streaming services, for one, and they're also saying that it's a singles business, and it has been for, like, a decade now. Albums just aren't as strong as they used to be, and, you know, now that we have services like iTunes and Amazon, CD Baby and whatnot, where you can buy an individual song off of an album. If you don't like the whole album, then what's the point of buying it? So people are just buying single songs off of the record. And I've done that too, because I'm not going to spend $10 on a whole album, or I'm only going to listen to 2 of the songs, or if I can spend $2 to get those 2 songs, you know, saving my money and getting what I want. It's unfortunate, you know, like, we talked about it maybe in like the first or second episode of the podcast, where I just was saying that there's not a lot of substance in new music, which is, you know, true and not true. There's definitely substance, but the majority of songs coming out, clearly they're not selling. There's a dance party about to happen outside here. The material is just not strong enough. People don't want to invest in music because the return isn't great anymore. And
then I think that probably affects the stats too, right? Like, if the poppiest track off an album is selling more than anything else on that album,
like a ballad,
that's gonna drive what gets put out there, I think. In some ways, like maybe from larger artists and larger record companies. It's just going to show that the old model doesn't really work anymore, you know? Like, we're comparing the music industry today to what it was 20 years ago, and a lot's changed since then. We can't have that same model. So they need to figure out a new way to measure success, and, you know, throw away the gold, platinum, diamond thing. As cool as it is, alter it so that it makes sense for today's industry. Because we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment each time a record comes out, and how good is that? You know, it's just negativity. We need to be positive. And, you know, spread good vibes. So that's not doing it. Everyone's just feeling bad about themselves. This is the first time in 38 years that an album hasn't gone platinum. In a year. I guess we'll have to clearly something's wrong. But we'll have to give an update in January. And see if there was one to sneak in the last couple months.
We'll see. Maybe Taylor Swift can do it.
Wow, that's amazing. If she can do it in like 60 days.
She should get an award for that. Also, just a quick mention, Nielsen SoundScan, which collects data from records being sold in stores and whatnot. Every album that comes out has a little, like, code, and that's how they track how many units are being moved. They've been tracking data since 1991, and this is the first year since 1991 that's had the lowest album sales. So it's just happening, you know.
All of a sudden.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, after I read the article, I was, like, feeling really inspired. I was like, yeah, I'm going to change this. You know, I'm going to write a really good album that people are going to buy, and I'm going to sell 1 million copies.
Faster than Taylor Swift.
Faster than Taylor Swift. Like, she's a year older than me. Like, I can write songs just as good as her. Why? I just need the right people to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, maybe I'll be the saving grace. Not this year, though, because I don't have enough time, but...
well, challenge yourself.
Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to mention that because it's kind of weird. Like, really weird. 38 years, and this is the first year in that time. 38 years since Rhea's been tracking platinum.
Okay.
They did gold they've been doing gold forever since they started. They didn't start doing platinum records for like 30 years later, I guess.
Okay.
They started they've been around for 62 years. They've only been certifying albums as platinum for 38 years. So, yeah. So I'll throw out the link to that Forbes article. There's also another article I read that has pretty much the exact same information, but a little bit more. I can't remember what it was called. Something in taxes. I sent it to you.
Yep.
So we'll put up both of those links and follow along if you're interested in seeing what happens with the rest of the year and music sales. Mm-hmm. It's if nothing happens, if nothing goes platinum, 2015 will be a really interesting year for albums. Yeah. I feel like not a lot of people will be putting them out. I feel like it'll be like singles coming out, maybe with like a B-side, and every couple months we'll get like an EP from a big artist. Maybe like a little 3-song sampler every couple months. I feel like that's the way to go for a long time now because, you know, like people can last on 3 or 4 songs for a couple months. You know, they play them a lot and then at the end of that time, throw another 3 or 4 at them, you know, like.
That's interesting.
It's a good working pattern. Like, you're not setting yourself up to write like 12 songs. And, you know, that's if you are doing that, then there's a good chance that 10 of those songs might not be very good because you're just trying to get it out by a certain time. Whereas if you give yourself time, you plan to write 3 or 4 songs, and they're really good, then you'll sell all of your songs, you know?
Right.
That's the way I think it should go, but...
It'll be interesting to see, though, because if you think back, like, it used to be singles back in record days for a long time, too, and then moved into selling stuff by album, and then in that time you even got like the rock opera and stuff, you know, so I wonder if like maybe we will go through this period of all singles and then it'll switch back to sort of like concept album type things.
Definitely concept albums. Things go in a cycle and it's been that way forever. And I mean, vinyl's starting to sell again like in crazy numbers. Back like how it was in the late 80s, early 90s, so we're already starting a new shift there. And with vinyl, it's a hard copy. You can't just buy one song and get a vinyl. Like, you're buying a whole album.
Unless they start making singles.
Single albums. That would just take up way too much space in your house if you had a bunch of albums that just have one song on them.
Yeah, it reminds me of... Okay, do you remember early days of like MP3s? And they had those little players that had those kind of card... It was like a card, but it was fatter than a card.
Yeah, what were they called? Something disc. Mini discs?
Maybe mini discs?
Yeah, I think they were mini. I didn't have one because they were kind of like in between CD players and MP3 players, and I just had a CD player until my Discman became my iPod.
Right.
I never was in between.
Yeah.
Short-lived trend there.
We were kids then. I think there was like one kid in our class that had one. But I don't know why it made me think of that.
Discmans. I remember going on road trips or like even just going to Barrie with my family, and I'd pack like my little CD book and my Discman, and I'd be swapping CDs in the car. Like, that's a hardy package to carry around with you. Now it's like my thing fits in my back pocket and it's got everything on it.
Yeah, amazing.
Technology moves so fast.
It does.
It blows my mind.
And changes the industry.
It does. For better and for worse.
Mm-hmm. So the second exhibition that I went to at 401 Richmond was at A Space Gallery. I think I wouldn't. How would you say this? Would you say like I have motion? Like it's like L and then it's a colon and
yeah, it's kind of like an artsy way to write like.
Yeah.
I would say like or
and I read through the whole exhibition thing and it doesn't say anything about why it's titled that. Anyway, so this is called Like I Have Motion. It was curated by Leanne Martin, who is a curator and writer of art history stuff. And this runs September 23rd to November 1st at A Space Gallery. So again, you got to get out there fast if you want to see it. And it features a group of Aboriginal artists. So, yeah. 7 artists. They are Rebecca Belmore, Scott Benisanabanan, Faye Heavy Shield, Quavana. I'm doing terrible.
Well, insert the names here just so you can see what Georgia's trying to pronounce.
Meryl McMaster, Nadia Mayer, and Jeffrey Thompson. That was really hard.
That's Jeffrey Thomas, not Thompson.
I was so happy that I was on the last name that I didn't even read it correctly. That's actually really terrible. It's kind of insensitive to not be able to pronounce people's names just because they're different than ours, you know. Back to the exhibition. I wanted to read something from the exhibition pamphlet, actually. In it said, "The works of the 7 artists in this exhibition portray individual ideas of motion and movement. Together they are testimony of the dynamism and persistence of Indigenous cultures today and into the future. Motion is inherent in the nature of artists' experience and participants in contemporary culture." So this exhibition looks at the idea of movement as a part of Indigenous culture and uses Aboriginal artists' work to portray that. And I wanted to talk specifically about 3 of my favorite works from this exhibition. It was a great exhibition and well curated and well installed. So here are my faves. I really liked Jeffrey Thomas's postcard series. They were actually displayed just outside A Space Gallery, sort of in the hallway. They have some vitrines there. So he is studying art, like the history of photography, and noticing the lack of representation or images of Aboriginal people in cities, and also the lack of photographs included in photographic history that are created by Aboriginal people. So he's created his postcard series, which is in the classic style of souvenir postcards. It's like, wish you were here, you know? So he's been traveling and creating these photographs, but he adds a little sort of the plastic action figure of a First Nations person into the image. So there's one on the front of the card there. So there's something funny about them because you recognize the style of that wish you were here postcard.
Yeah.
But then it adds in this element. So I really liked them and enjoyed walking through the hall and seeing the few of them that were there. I'm interested to see if there's more to this series. I should look them up and see if it's a larger series than that.
This one's interesting because it says welcome. You'd think it'd say welcome to Toronto, but it's spelled Tkaronto. So welcome to Tikaronto. Is that how they pronounce it, maybe?
I think it might be, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a great series. Next, I want to talk about Scott, and his name is really long. I would struggle with any name that was this long. It's Benisanabanan. So this piece was called Psychic Histories, and it's really an experience. It was so cool. You go into through a black curtain into a dark room, and there's a projected moving image, and there's sort of these semi-transparent white squares moving around on a black background, and then there's a sound element of audio that he's collected, different frequencies over the last few years. And yeah, it was crazy. I was sitting in this room, no one else was there, so I was so focused on what I was hearing and what I was seeing, and it was hypnotic. Like, you just got entranced in this thing. I think it was like 3 minutes looped, and I probably watched it a couple times.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And the whole thing sort of moves and gets smaller and gets bigger. And this I pulled from the exhibition pamphlet. He said he wants to use the sort of hypnotic element to re-educate mainstream consciousness surrounding Indigenous issues. So definitely an experience, like, so amazing. I was really impressed with that piece. Then next was Faye Heavy Shield Slivers, which sort of creates the illusion of water, but it hangs on the wall. It's a series of photographs of rivers, like
That's
different
cool.
rivers throughout the country.
Yeah.
And she's folded the photographs into triangles that look like arrowheads, which are all on strings, and there is sort of a curtain of these suspended. And then just as you move through the gallery, the little breezes that happen make the whole thing sort of move and shimmer, and
That's really
totally recreates the idea of moving water. And apparently water represents well-being and respect within that culture. So yeah, I thought that piece was gorgeous. I think sometimes the simplest ideas done well are so amazing, and it was so well installed. So
I think that applies to everything.
yeah, so that was a great exhibition. Go see Like I Have Motion at A Space Gallery. Again, September 23rd to November 1st.
Cool. All right. The last thing I just want to mention quickly, the Fleetwood Mac concert I went to on October 18th at the ACC in Toronto. It was incredible. I mean, I didn't have expectations because I saw them last year, the four of them. Christine wasn't there. And this year, Christine McPhee, the keyboard player. It's not really a keyboard, it's like a Rode, I think she played, Fender Rhodes or whatever. Fender, why did I say Fender? Is it Fender Rhodes? I'm just forgetting everything now. Anyways, she's back, and it was so good to see her. Like, I've never seen her live. She stopped playing with Fleetwood Mac, I think 16 years ago, and it was, the energy with her there was electric. Like, everybody, it was a full house. There was like so many people there, and every time she would sing one of her songs, the audience just went wild. And when she'd stop and talk, everyone was like whistling and cheering. And even like Stevie and Lindsay and Mick, they all took time out of the show to like just say how thankful they were to have her back. And it was just wild. Like, it was so good. And she hasn't changed a bit. I mean, I have never seen her before, but I've read a ton and I've watched a ton on Fleetwood Mac, and her voice is so intact still. Like, she sounded exactly the same as she did on Rumors, and she looks great. They all look great. They just seem like they're in a really good place, and they're working on a new album, and I think it's gonna be really good. The concert was magical. What can I say? They're coming back February 3rd to the ACC.
Wow.
Pre-sale tickets are this week, so by the time this episode comes out, it'll just be on sale to the general public. So if you can go, I definitely would recommend it. I'm gonna go again. I can't not go. I bought a sweatshirt there, and as I was in line, I'm just like looking at all the things that they're selling, and I was like, t-shirts, I already have t-shirts. And they had this really cool black jacket that was like an old school, like, kind of baseball jacket, like a varsity team shirt. It's a Fleetwood Mac here. And it was $160. I was like, I want that, but it was too much. Like, I couldn't have. That was more than the ticket cost me.
Right.
And there was this sweatshirt hanging there for $60, so I bought a sweatshirt because I don't have any sweatshirts from them. But like, I needed any more Fleetwood Mac merchandise, but I could not buy it. You know, they're one of those bands that, like, no matter what they put out, I will buy it. I also, the day that I went to the concert, I ordered, Mick Fleetwood just put out a book. It's called Play On, and yeah, I got it in the mail yesterday, so I'm really excited to read that.
Nice.
I'll talk about it in the podcast once it gets started, but it's a story I've read like 100 times already, I'm sure, but it's from Mick's side of things. And I got some iPhone footage from the concert. It was pretty dark and I was sitting really high up. Sound quality is pretty good, but the footage, you know, just close your eyes and listen to the music and pretend you're there. I got just captures of different songs and some of the parts where they were speaking. I just love hearing Christine McVie speak. She's just got such a nice voice. So there's a clip in there of that. And it was a lot of fun. I went alone, and I think that's the first time I've ever gone to a concert by myself. At first I was a little kind of intimidated because the ACC is a huge venue, but it was a blast, you know. I know Georgia's gone to things by herself, and a lot of people will be like, oh, you're going by yourself, like, be safe. But, you know, I never got asked anything once by anybody. I just went about, got a slice of pizza, you know, stood in the merch line by myself. Then I was sandwiched between these two other women. One was from Australia, the other one was just a nice lady. I was talking to her a bit. Cool. And I got up and, you know, danced a bit and sang along, and I left, got out of there in like 10 minutes. It was perfect. Like, if you are afraid of doing things by yourself, you don't let that hold you back from not doing things that you want to do, because you might be surprised at how much fun you can have by going at it alone.
Exactly. I think there's a huge stigma towards doing stuff on your own, and I don't think there should be, because I think it's so cool to be able to go and experience something without anyone else's ideas coloring that, you know, to just and just have your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own experiences.
At your own pace.
Exactly, go at your own pace.
Yeah.
And so I've been talking to a friend of mine about traveling by yourself, and I've traveled on my own. Like, I think it's so cool. It's one of the best things you can do for yourself. Like, I think, do stuff by yourself.
You get to do what you want when you want to. You don't have to worry about tailoring your needs and what you want to do just because somebody else is with you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say do everything by yourself. Like,
balance
being with people is great too, but like, I think
the big thing is just don't not do something because you're afraid of doing it by yourself.
Exactly.
Because I had a great time, and I'm sure most of you would.
Yeah.
But then again, we're also very independent people, so Anyways, that was just kind of a little side note.
Yeah.
Here's my footage from Fleetwood Mac. It's about 5 minutes of black footage. Like, there's a couple lights. At one point, I tried to turn the camera to get like a long shot.
Oh yeah, landscape.
Yeah, but when I put it onto iMovie, it didn't turn. So at one point, you're just gonna, if you're watching it, you can turn your head sideways.
Okay.
It's not artistic
I might be able
at
to change
all.
That.
So Fleetwood Mac. Enjoy the footage.
much for coming to visit. And I'd just like to say about John, McSteedy and Lindsay and the other great musicians and players on this stage here tonight, to imagine what it feels like to me to be given a second chance to do this. And I love you guys. I love you guys. And let's do this song. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed Lauren's footage from Fleetwood Mac at the ACC.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see some of you on February 3rd.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get a little group going.
Yeah, tweet.
Yeah, live tweet. I totally didn't do that. I was too preoccupied, but anyways.
You got footage, so
yeah.
It's like they were there. Anyway, last thing that I wanted to talk about is, rather than a space, the space. You can go to www.thespace.org. They are a non-for-profit organization that's set up by the BBC and the Arts Council of England, and they commission about 50 new internet artworks yearly. So it's sort of an online gallery, and they help fund artists doing digital online art stuff. And they have an open call. So if you have a proposal that you want to get funded and artwork that you want to be online, make sure you check out thespace.org. The deadline is November 14th. So it's a pretty short window because it only opened in October, October 10th or something, I think. So November 14th, if you want to apply to The Space, do it up.
Speaking of the BBC, did you know Jamie Cullum has his own radio show on the BBC?
Yeah, I did.
Radio
and
2?
I think they stream it on Jazz FM.
I was listening to Jazz FM yesterday, and I heard it in the background saying Jamie Cullum on BBC, and I'm like, what? And then I looked it up this morning because I was going to talk about it, but it's been around since 2010, so I'm just really behind on the news.
Yeah.
I
love him.
Yeah, he's great.
I remember when his first album came out and it was getting played everywhere, and I was like, what a babe.
Yeah.
He seems really young, but he's actually like 10 years older than us.
Yeah, he does look really young.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's all we've got for today. So thanks for hanging out with us for episode 12, and we'll see you for episode 13.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.